Faith without works is dead. You hear it all the time. You go to church and you learn all these scriptures, but then you don't apply none of them to your life. You're looking at a man who has made the simple application of 3 or 4 scriptures and maxed them out to get here. I maxed out 3, 4 scriptures to get here. I kid you not. I'll share them with you if you want to hear about them, but I maxed out 3, 4 scriptures to get here. I'd love to tell you I'm the funniest person ever lived, but I ain't. Richard Pryor got that. I'd love to tell you I'm the greatest entertainer, but I ain't. Michael Jackson was that. I got all that, but they gone. So I probably am. But listen, man, but I got to tell you something. If you could get a couple of things from me, if you could gather this piece of information. Albert Einstein said one. He said, imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attraction. Now, I want you to get this now. Imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attraction. Because if you think about it, everything you have, everything we have in this world, somebody imagined. It's your imagination is tremendous. Somebody was sitting on the phone one day talking with a cord to the wall and said, man, I wish I could just go outside with this phone. Everybody in here got a cell phone. Somebody imagined that. Somebody got tired of riding in a wagon cross country from slavery to freedom. Somebody said, I wish we had something that made these wheels move by themselves. We drive cars. People got tired of driving from New York to LA. Somebody said, I wish we could fly. We got airplanes. Imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attraction. Your real life, the one God really got for you, is in your imagination. It is not in your current situation or your current paycheck. And if you've been living like that, you have then restricted yourself to a commonality that is really not yours. Because what really God got for you is really in your imagination. Now, since there's a lot of church folk in here, let me tie that to a scripture, because this is when you really start affecting black folk. See, y'all don't really believe nothing till you tie it to some type of church thing. So let's just go on and do that. And once again, before I start this, I am not a pastor or a preacher. So there is a script that Albert Einstein took this quote. It's like the book The Secret. The Secret is one of the top-selling motivational books ever. But if you read the book The Secret, it's all biblical. Everything comes from the Bible. You really don't need self-help books. You don't need the magic of thinking big, the power of positive thinking, how to win friends and influence people, Think and Grow Rich, The Winner's Circle. I've read them all. All of that information is in Proverbs, all of it. But let me give you this scripture. You've all heard this, right? Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So when I told you a minute ago, you got to have a tremendous work ethic, but you got to have a lot of faith. I talk to so many people who get older, like some of us are, and they've lost their faith. Well, faith is really simple. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. All that means is in the beginning, you just...
Now, fear is going to be a player in your life, but you get to decide how much. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it. My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job, and our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. I watched the effect of my father's love and humor and how it altered the world around me, and I thought, that's something to do. That's something worth my time. It wasn't long before I started acting up. People would come over to the house and they'd be greeted by a 7-year-old throwing himself down a large flight of stairs. When I was about 28, after a decade as a professional comedian, I realized one night in LA that the purpose of my life had always been to free people from concern, just like my dad. And when I realized this, I dubbed my new devotion the Church of Freedom from Concern. And I dedicated myself to that ministry. What's yours? How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. As someone who's done what you're about to go and do, I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart and got me to the top of a mountain. Look where I am. Look what I get to do. Everywhere I go. I'm going to get emotional because when I tap into this, it really is extraordinary to me. I did something that made people present their best selves to me wherever I go. I am at the top of the mountain, and I was, and the only one I hadn't freed was myself, and that's when my search for identity deepened. I wondered who I'd be without my fame. Who would I be if I said things that people didn't want to hear? Or if I defied their expectations of me? What if I showed up to the party without my Mardi Gras mask and refused to flash my breasts for a handful of beads? But you guys are so ahead of the game. You already know who you are. And that peace that we're after lies somewhere beyond personality, beyond the perception of others, beyond invention and disguise, even beyond effort itself. You can join the game, fight the wars, play with form all you want, but to find real peace, you have to let the armor go. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory.
I enjoy connecting with people and ideas, and I have a mission statement. So every year for probably the past 10 years, I've worked out a mission statement for myself. And for the last few years, the mission statement has stayed the same, and it's been improve lives, right? So when I go into something, I'm looking for how the quality of this piece could potentially improve lives. But it's all along the way. It's when you make the movie and how you're interacting with people in the process. And, the concept of improving lives runs through the center of everything I do. And then I realized that the way to improve lives is to continually improve yourself, right? So with that, every morning when I get out of the bed, I haven't fixed everything in the world yet, so there's always something to do. And in this film, I read an interesting quote for the Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. He said that good people have to get out of the bed every day and try to empty the ocean with a ladle, right? And I thought that was, I knew that was profound, and I paused for a second and I said, all right, what the hell is a ladle? As the mentality of how you wake up every day to try to do good in the world. So for me, I'm really driven by continually trying to elevate my mind and elevate my spirit and care for my body, and to be able to love as many people as effectively as possible with this mystery of life that I've been given.
But if someone put a gun to your head and said, you have to have your 100-page thesis done by next Monday, or I'll shoot you, but I don't care how terrible it is, you would sit down and write it. And the thing is, then you have it, right? Then you have something, and then you can fix it. You can iterate and fix it. That bad first draft, that's the most valuable thing. And so that's what you need. You need a bad first draft of yourself. And there's an idea that Jung developed about the trickster and the jester, the comedian, right? That the trickster is the precursor to the savior. That's one of the things I learned from Jung that was just, it's so unlikely. You'd never think that. It's so amazing that might be the case. But the satirical and the ironic and the troublemaker, the comedian, the fool is the precursor to the savior. Why? Because you're a fool when you start something new. And so if you're not willing to be a fool, then you'll never start anything new. And if you never start anything new, then you won't develop. And so the willingness to be a fool is the precursor to transformation. And that's the same as humility. And so if you're going to write your destiny, you can do a bad first job. You're going to get smarter as you move forward. That's the thing, is that so something beckons to you. That's what happens here. Maybe the star that Geppetto wished on was the wrong damn star, but at least it was a star, right? At least it was in the sky. At least it moved him forward. And so you say in your life, well, something grips you and fills you with interest. And you think, well, should I do that? And the answer is, if not that, then something. What if it's a mistake? It's a mistake. Rest assured. What do you know? You're going to stumble around, right? And what's going to happen is this. You're going to not stay in stasis. You're not going to wander around in circles. And I see people like that. they said, well, I never knew what to do, and now I'm 40. It's like, that's not so good. That's not so good. And you might say, well, and there is a literature, too, that suggests that people are a lot more unhappy when they look back on their lives about the things they didn't do than they are about the mistakes they made while they were doing things. And so that's really worth thinking about, too, because there's redemptive mistakes. And a redemptive mistake would be a mistake that you make when you go out and try to do something. You know, you think, okay, I'm going to try to do this. And you're not good at it. You make a bunch of mistakes. It's like, what's the consequence if you pay attention? You're not quite so stupid anymore. That's the thing, is you've been informed by the results of your errors. And so what happens is you follow the beacon, you follow the light. And you're blind, so you don't know where the light is. It's dimly apprehended only, and you're afraid to follow it. But you decide to take some stumbling steps towards it. And as you take stumbling steps towards it, you become illuminated and enlightened and informed because of the nature of your experience, because you're pushing yourself beyond where you are, and you're going into the country that you have not yet been in, and you learn something. And so what happens then is the star moves. You move 10 feet towards it, and you think, no, that's not right. I didn't get it right. It isn't there. It's actually there. And so then you see it somewhere else, and you shift yourself slightly, and you move forward. And that's what happens, is that you continue as you change. The thing that guides you forward moves, right? It's like God in the desert in Egypt, the pillar of light that you're following. It's moving. It's not a permanent thing. You move towards it, it moves away. It guides you forward. And so you say, well, is what I'm aiming at paradise itself? And the answer to that is no, because what do you know? You couldn't see paradise if it was right in front of you, but you might get a glimmer of it. And so you move towards it and you grow. And then the next time you open your eyes, you see a little bit more clearly. And that's what happens, is that just happens over and over, right? It keeps moving. But the thing that's so cool is that all those zigs and zags, you say, and each of those zags and zigs is a catastrophe. I hit a wall, my God, and then I had to die a little bit, and I barely got back up. It's a phoenix transformation at each turn, and it's painful. But the thing is that even though you've traveled 20 miles, let's say, on that road, and you've only moved 3 miles forward, you've moved 3 miles forward instead of falling backwards, because that's the thing too, is that if you stand still, you fall backwards. You cannot stand still, because the world moves away from you if you stand still. And there's no stasis, there's only backwards. And so if you're not moving forwards, then you're moving backwards. And that's more of the underlying truth of the Matthew principle. To those who have everything, more will be given. From those who have nothing, everything will be taken. It's a warning. Do not stay in one place.
What burns in your heart is important for you to pay attention to, because it never goes away. That's why people wake up in a rut. See, you hate waking up because you're waking up and you don't know the reason. You're waking up and you don't have no design in mind. Once you live in your purpose, when you discover your gift, you can't wait to wake up. Please understand, pay very close attention to the thing that makes you happy. All of you are gifted at something. The problem is, you keep wanting your gift to be what somebody else's gift is. Identify your own gift, because you already have it. Here's the way you identify your gift. Your gift is the thing that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. If you fry chicken better than everybody you know, you ought to be somewhere frying chicken. People make millions of dollars frying chicken. Popeye, Kentucky Fried Chicken, El Pollo Loco. All they doing is making chicken. They just found a way to do it. Somebody just started making chicken. You know the story of Marie Callender's? Do you know what this woman did, man? She worked for a diner, a greasy spoon diner that was going out of business. It was her only job. She was a single mother. It was her only job. She needed that job, but the diner was going to close. So she went to the owner of the diner and said, let me bake one of my pies. People like my pies, and see if I can help you make a little money. He said, whatever, bring it in. She bought one pie in. They sold every slice. The next day, the people came in and asked for the pie. She had to go home and make another pie. The next day, so many people asked for the pie, she had to make 4 pies. Then people started saying, can I buy my own pie? She made so many pies at this store that she eventually saved her money and put a commercial oven in her house. Now, she done made so many pies, the dude's shop, he ain't selling hamburger no more. All he's selling is them damn pies. That's how Marie Callender got started. Marie Callender now has over 120 restaurants. You can't go to no frozen food section without seeing Marie Callender in there. You know what she started with? A pie. One pie. Your gift will make room for you. Now, what is your gift? It's the thing that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. That's your gift. Quit running away from the gift. Your gift will make room for you. Stop trying to be something you ain't gifted at. Maybe you here because you need to hear this. Maybe you here because you need to dust off your dreams. Maybe you need to explore your imagination. Maybe you just need to identify your gift so you can quit tripping in your own life, trying to figure out what you can do. Some people are born to be teachers, caregivers, nurses, babysitters. Those are gifts, you know what I mean? If you're living in your gift, you're cool. It's just if you ain't. You do anything else, when that alarm clock go off in the morning, you ain't gonna like it. And I would hate to die and never do the thing I was born to do. You should look into that before you mess around and check out of here.
I used to blame the weather. I blamed the traffic. I used to blame my car. I blamed the manufacturers. I used to blame the company. I blamed company policy. I used to blame the training program. I blamed my negative relatives. They were always putting me down. I blame my cynical neighbors. They're just selfish, looking out for themselves. Won't loan you money? They were on my list. I used to blame the economy. I blamed the community. That's a pretty good list for not doing well, isn't it? I thought it was good. I'll never forget one day. Mr. Schoaf is very kind, but he was also very blunt, and this was no exception. And I'm glad he was blunt. There's a lot of things I'd have missed if he hadn't have been blunt. One day, with sort of a curious look on his face, he said, "Jim, just out of curiosity, tell me, how come you haven't done well up until now?" Excellent question. I thought, well, so I won't look too bad, I'll go through my list. And this list I just gave you, I put that on him. And he was very patient. He let me go through the whole thing, the government, the weather. I went through this whole thing. When I finished, he looked my list over very carefully. He said, "Mr. Rohn, big problem with your list. You ain't on it." When I went to work for him a few months later, I learned very quickly to tear up my list, reasons for not doing well, and I threw it away. And I got me a fresh piece of paper. And I put one word on it. Me. There's a Black Heritage spiritual that says, "It's not my mother, nor my father, nor my brother, nor my sister, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer." See, I used to blame everything outside. And then let me give you a little philosophy that helped turn my life around. For your notes, here it is. It's not what happens that determines the quality or the quantity of your life. It's not what happens. And the reason is because what happens to about everybody. No different. The sun went down on all of us last night. A common event, a happening. And I found out that the same things can happen to two different people. One gets rich and one stays poor. Why is that? It's because it's not what happens, but rather it's what you do that changes everything. So that's a key phrase. It's not what happens, it's what you do. What happens is about the same. You might put that in parentheses here. Same. What people do, that's what's different. Somebody says, "Yeah, but you don't understand the disappointments I've had." Come on. Everybody's had their share. Disappointments are not special gifts reserved for the poor. Everybody has them. The difference is what you do about it. It's not the weather. I used to blame the weather, and I discovered it rains on the rich. So see, that won't help. Two men wake up one morning, there's a rainstorm on. One of them looks out his window, sees the rainstorm, and he says, "Wow, what a storm. With weather like this, they can't expect you to go out and make sales." He stays home. Same morning, the other guy looks out his window, sees the same storm, says, "Wow, what a storm." But he says, "You know what, with weather like this, what a great day to go out and make sales." Most everybody will probably be home, especially the salesman. See, that's the difference in how your life works out. It's not what happens, it's what you do. So here's one of the key questions of the evening. Starting tomorrow, what are you going to do that'll make a change in your life's direction?
Every person you see who's on fire and is successful knows the why. You know what the problem is? You might know the why in the beginning. You wrote a mission statement and stuff like that. You got to know why you're doing this right now. This right now. That's what's going to engage you and activate the why. You might have a why, but it's not active. How many follow the difference when I'm talking about here? Say I. Otherwise, that little law of familiarity shows up. well, we're doing this because da-da-da-da-da, and you repeat the why, but it has no emotion behind it. See, if I take a stick pin, no, I don't see anything like that, but when a woman has a blouse and they have like a little stick pin in it, let's think that stick pin is a word. And I take that stick pin and I throw it at you. Are you going to feel it? Barely. What if I take that little stick pin called a word and I wire it to the back of a giant iron bar called emotion? Now I can take that stick pin and put that thing right through your heart. That's the power of why. RPM. R is the result, the outcome, what you're after. P is the purpose. It's the why. 80% of success is why. 20% is how. Get a big enough why, people figure out how to do it. Yes. How many agree with me on this? Say I. So you better know your why. So, talking to the president, tell me something. What's your outcome? And then why? And once we know the why, we know what you're after and why, then the question is, how do we do it? We know what we're after, why, how do we do it? By the way, are there lots of hows to get to an outcome, yes or no? Are there many paths to get a result, yes or no? Some are more efficient than others. And you're not going to know. So you know what you do? You brainstorm out all the hows you can think of. All the things you could possibly need to do to get that result. And then you narrow it down to the 20% that makes 80% of the difference. And you'll find out you don't have to do that whole to-do list. In fact, wouldn't it be nice to write your whole to-do list and not do it and still get the outcome? How many prefer that? Say I. That's RPM. I love it when I don't do my to-dos and I got the outcome. That's the coolest thing in the world. You might have done one or two of them, but it's been learning selectively which ones are going to create it. But the only way to do that is to brainstorm out the M, the massive action plan. If I know the result I'm after, I know what it is I want. What's the outcome? What's the result? What do I want specifically, clearly? And I know the why, and the why's got to move who? Who does the why have to matter to? Well, if it's a why you're trying to get everybody to deal with, they got to have a why involved in it. But people do things for different reasons. People donate money for different reasons. Some of you donated money the other day here because you were moved by the experience. Some of you did it for connection. Some of you did it to contribute. Some of you felt guilty if you didn't do it because somebody else did beside you. Or you have a lot of money and you feel guilty about it because you didn't earn it. I'm not saying anybody in this room, but that's how some people are. They inherited it, so they feel guilty. Some people do things to get their name up on the wall. Some people today do it anonymously and then tell everyone. Isn't it true? Yeah, just confidentially. That was me. And everybody tells everybody that it's anonymous. They're doing it for significance. Some do it for connection. Some do it for contribution. I don't care why a person does it, but we do it. But if you're going to work with a group of people, you better make sure the why touches on all their needs. Does that make sense? When it's you, whose why does it have to be? Whose why does it have to touch? Whose purpose does it have to be? Your own, for you to be moved. So if you know the result and you know the purpose, now you need the M, which is the massive action plan. We also call the massive action plan the map. It's your massive action plan, your map. How are you going to get there? What are you going to do? And by the way, when you're crystal clear on what you want and you know why you want it, you can make a big map. You can brainstorm a million ways to do it. Not all your houses are going to work. That's why you make a whole map. And then go back and gradually asterisk the ones that are the most important and go hit those. You might get the whole outcome in the first two action items and get rid of your whole rest of your list. This is RPM. This is how I operate. Now, if you never did this on paper and you just did this thinking process in your head, you'll get invaluable resources. If you learn to put this on paper, it'll be more powerful because then your brain isn't racing and you can see it. If you make it into a system that you personally use, your productivity will explode. If you teach your whole company to do this, your company will go to levels you can't even imagine because everyone will maximize their productivity. And it is different than any other system in its essence because it causes a different focus with a different level of emotion, greater creativity as a result of that, and then it shows you how to leverage it all. Does this make sense? So those three pieces, results planning, asking what question? What's the first question you're going to always ask? What do I really want? What's my outcome? What's the actual result I want from this day, from this week, from this conversation, from this meeting? Doesn't matter what it is. If that's all you ever do, you're already practicing RPM at a fundamental level. But if you want to juice it up, you'll ask the second question. What's the second question? Quick. Why do I want it? Why? What's juicy about this? What excites me about this? What do I really want about this? If I'm going to call this person, why am I calling them? And you know what? When you get a stronger why, the action items change because you're in a different what? Who knows? A different what? Make that same call without any clear outcome and any clear purpose, or the outcome is get back to him. That's my goal, get back to him. What's going to be the quality of the writing or the phone call or the vocal quality when you're getting back to somebody? Versus if you know, my outcome is to make sure they feel like I am so in their corner that I'm here to make sure their needs are completely met, more than they've ever met by any person they've ever spoken to on the phone before, and that I am here for them and they can count on me. Why? Because that's who the hell I am. Because when people deal with me, they have found someone like no other human being they've ever dealt with, and I am a source they can count on. That's why I don't have to go chase 8 million new clients. That's why they stay my client for 17 years and pay me $1 million a year to talk to them on the phone once every 10 days for 10 minutes and see them 3 times a year for an hour. And I get a piece of the upside, so sometimes I get a couple $1 million for that. Why would somebody pay you that kind of money? Because when my guy calls me, he gets delivery he can't get anywhere else on the face of the earth. So I pride myself in that. And by the way, that feels juicy to me. It meets my need for contribution, for my need for growth, my need for significance. I'm the best at what I do. My need for certainty, I deliver. And it's variety. Who the hell knows what's going to happen when I pick up this phone? It's different every time. Because the market's changed, something's going on. How many follow? Say I. It's a very different thing than, oh, I'm getting back to my client, right? And the way you're going to come across is different. And everybody will go, wow. And in life anyway, by the way, the people who are the very best on earth that get paid everything like 100 times more than everybody else, they're just a little bit better than everybody else. It's like, you know, a bear's chasing you. I don't have to be that fast, just that much faster than you, right? In life, you just have to be a little bit better than everybody else and you get all the rewards. And that little bit better, to me, is RPM. Okay? Now, RPM is also a visual chunking system, visual way to chunk. Remember the other day when I showed you this little concept of this chunking system where, you know, you have this to do and this to do, this, I gotta this, I gotta this, and this, and this, and I gotta this, and this, and this, and this, and I gotta this, and this, and this. By the way, this is what happens when you ask yourself, what do I gotta do? Which I'm gonna show you, you should still do. You should ask yourself all the things you do and write them all out. And then when you've written it all out, you look at this and you step back and you say, okay, but what do I really want? What do I want out of this project? What do I want out of this day? What do I want out of this week? What's the most important outcome I could get out of this day, this week, this project, this element? What result do I want? And you go, well, I see this and this relate to that, but you know what I want this. Oh, if I want this, then this and 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 this all fit into that targeted outcome. How many follow? And I might go, you know what else? I also should do this and this to get that outcome. They're not even on the list. But these might get me there faster than all 3 of these. Oh, by the way, this and this and this and this and this and this and this, all right. Oh, and guess what? This and this and this and this and this, all right. And guess what? There's my day. 1, 2, 3. 3 outcomes, 4 outcomes, 5 outcomes. It's a different world. You will get yourself completely out of reaction. You start to take control. My question to you is this. How important do you think it would be for you to master a skill set like this, for you to have the quality of life you want, quality of business you want? 0 to 10, what would be your level of importance you'd give this, my friends? How big? Where would you put it for you? Raise your hand if it's a 10 for you. Let me see your hands. Good. I'm not going to teach you today. But I'm going to teach you enough that you can take yourself to the next level. If you want to go deeper, you will. But I didn't want you to leave without the fundamentals of it, because just the fundamentals will help you to take what we've got here and take it home and go to work at it at a much more effective level. So if someone gave you a test and they asked you, what would be the fastest way for you to change your productivity? It would be stop focusing on what to and focus on your, you do nothing else but that. What does RPM stand for? The Rapid Planning Method, also known as the Results Planning Method. It also stands for the 3 questions you're going to start to ask. What's the first question? It is not, what am I going to? The first question is, what is my? And then as you get more clear than that, outcome starts broad. To make it more specific, you say, what's the specific what? Result that I'm after. What do I really want? What's my outcome? What's the result? So usually I start out with outcome because it's broad. And the result makes you make it even more specific. Okay? Start broad, get more specific. And by the way, writing that down, you might write your outcome and scribble out and rewrite it a few times so you got something that really grabbed you. That takes more time than just writing a to-do down. But it's time well wasted if you want to think of it as wasting. And pretty quickly, by the way, you know what you're going to find out? There aren't that many outcomes you're after in life. Lots of activities, not that outcomes, and pretty soon it'll be a shortcut. Just like rewriting your handwriting, you won't just cut the time in half, it'll cut it by 2/3 because you'll know right where to go. That's what starts to happen. You start developing what I call pathways of power, where you know, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is how I get to that result. And most people have no clue how they get there. The second P stands for, the second question I ask myself is what? What's my purpose? Why am I doing this? And there are different emotions for each of us that drive us most. Some words will completely change your state. When you have that right word, for me it's impact, for example, or love, or contribution, or making a difference, or have fun. A couple things like that change the game for me overnight versus I have to.
What happened when you were that little boy or that little girl, at some point you felt those feelings. Prove them right, because there's an end to your life and it's coming sooner than you think. It goes by like this. Just yesterday, Max was 6 years old at the car wash. He's going off to college next year. Just yesterday, she was 8 months old. Now she's got a boyfriend. Just yesterday, I was a young, cool guy. Just yesterday, me and my girlfriend were walking on the beach. Someday I'm going to do that. It goes by in a flicker, just like that, in a blink. I don't care how young you are, in a blink. And at some point, it's going to be over. And I have this obsession as a Christian. When I die, I hope the Lord says, well done, good and faithful servant. But I got this hallucination. And even if you're not religious, I guarantee you this happened. I think when I die, I'm going to run into Papa. I'm going to get to see him again. And you're going to run into that person. You're going to get to see him again. Him and the Lord are going to be sitting there and they're going to say, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody. This was the woman you were born to be. This was the man you were born to be. Your twin's going to be there. This is who you were born to be. These are the people you could have helped, the memories you could have had, the things you could have accomplished, how you could have felt about yourself, the things you'd have seen, done, and become. Papa's going to show, this is who you could have been. This is who I saw you to be. I couldn't say it. I didn't understand it, but I felt it. I knew you were going to be this person. Meet him. To me, heaven when we die is we meet that person we were capable of being, destined to be, and we're identical twins. Hell is you meet them and you're total stranger. You meet them and they look at you. You don't even know each other. You didn't go the places I went. You didn't help things. You didn't feel the way about yourself. Total stranger. My obsession in my life, the reason I'm here to swear to my obsession in my life when I be identical. He's going to meet me and go, hey man, proud of you. Been watching you this whole time. Man, you did it. You got off track there for a while. It took you a little while. You're a late starter. But man, you did it. You accomplished it all. You did it all. You became the man you were born to be. I'm proud of you. And I'm going to say, brother, I've been chasing you all these years. I'm running down that guy. I'm running him down. Every decision I make when I'm down and lazy and depressed and bummed out like I've been this week and I'm not feeling good, I don't do things based on how I feel. I do things based on who I am. And who I am is that guy.
I know most people don't make definite plans, but don't let that be you. The guy says, well, you work where I work, but the time you get home, it's late. You've got to have a bite to eat, watch a little TV, and get to bed. You can't sit up half of the night and plan. And this is the guy who's behind on his car note. He's a good worker, hard worker, sincere. But I've discovered that you can be sincere and work hard all your life and wind up broke and embarrassed. You've got to be better than a good worker. You've got to be a good planner, a good goal setter. You've heard the old saying, the people who fail to plan are planning to fail. It's true. So work on your plans. Put yourself in the top few percent who put this power to work for themselves. Writing your goals down also shows you are serious. And to do better, you must get serious. You don't have to be grim, but you do have to be serious. Hey, everybody hopes things will get better, but remember, the future does not get better by hope. It gets better by plan. And hope unaided by clear plans can finally become an illness. There's a Bible phrase that says, hope long delayed makes the heart sick. It's a sickness. I used to have the illness known as passive hope. It's bad. And there's one that is even worse, and that is called happy hope. That is really bad. The man is 50, and he's broke, and he's still smiling.
Physically engage your body. If you ask a question, yell back the answer. Or in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you to actively engage in a different level. Engage with each other. Do some crazy things you wouldn't normally do. What that does, it brings up engagement, 80-90% retention, because now it's not just a thought or a right, it's a feeling in your body as well. And if you do that, you're going to retain it. Who's up for doing more and holding on to more? Say I. Then to do that, I'm going to ask a couple things. One is, if I ask you a question, please yell out the answer. You're already doing that. You're being very kind, but don't be kind anymore. Do it with more passion and intensity. Because I'm not going to ask you questions you don't know the answer to, because I want you to feel good about you. But if you yell out the answer, you'll activate your body's nervous system. Make sense? And the more you activate, the more energy you'll have. We live in a passive society, and if we're going to engage, by the way, the companies that engage, the companies that have records of 24 the top 25% in the country, highest levels of engagement of employees, companies like Google, companies like Salesforce, companies like Apple, companies like Facebook. And by the way, guess what all the research shows? 22% more profitability, almost 1 for 1. For every percentage of increased engagement, you almost get an increase in profitability. But I would argue you get that in your personal life as well. The more engaged you are, the more the other person will become engaged. You want to get somebody engaged? You get engaged. Think about it. Everyone in this room is a leader. What's our job to do as a leader? Our job is maximize resources, right? How do we take whatever resource and get more out of it? Ourselves, other people, our economics, our business, our technology. That's the job of a leader. But you can't maximize resources if you don't have full engagement. So I'd like to see if we couldn't increase that. And so one simple way of doing that, increasing that engagement, is to start with us. Because by the way, are you going to engage other people if you're not engaged? Yes or no? Yes or no? Are you going to be able to touch other people if you're not touched? Are you going to move other people if you're not moved? And so, by the way, here's the problem. How many of you wake up on? You have certain days you wake up and you think to yourself, today, I don't want to talk to any people.
Touch somebody and say, I got a flow in my ministry. I got a flow in my ministry. It's not about the money. It's about the ministry. It's about the purpose. I got to find my place. I've got to go. Can you imagine what it was like for Elisha to go in the house and tell his mom and dad somebody else is going to have to take over the family business? I will not be around next harvest season. I got to go. I know you're getting old, Dad, and I know you can't run this plow anymore, but you're going to have to get somebody. And you had all these plans of what I would be, but I'm called to a different direction. It's hard to tell your parents you're called to do something different other than what they had envisioned for you to do. That's why Jesus said, if you follow me, you got to hate your mother and father. He said, you got to love me more than you love anybody, because sometimes I'm going to send a sword of division between you and what you were connected to, because I have called you to serve on another level and in another capacity. Am I talking to anybody? And he boils his ox, and he burns his plow, and he kisses his mother and father goodbye. And the Bible says something that is amazing. And I just read it to you. It says that Elijah, after he kissed his mother and father goodbye, he ran after Elijah that he might minister unto him. Wow. And I preached it for years and never noticed that Elijah was called to minister to the minister, to feed the feeder, to help the helper. He was called to work in kitchen. There was an anointing on him to bring his organizational administrative skills to the kingdom. And he had to get untangled from all the distractions that were stopping him from full commitment to what he was called to. And if you're in a support ministry, you can't serve two masters. You can't just do this on the side when you finish, when you get ready. You have to come to a point in your life that you can focus on the thing you've been called to do and really commit your efforts, because people get dumb when they come to church. They park their mind in the parking lot right beside the car. They do. People who are real smart and helpful in corporate America come in church and get spiritual and stupid. They don't bring their technology, their skills, their talent into the kingdom. They melt into a melting pot and they're afraid to be bright. You need to bring your brightness with you. Come here armed with all the stuff that you've been trained to do and lay it down at the altar and say, all that I have, oh God, I lay it before you. And Elijah starts following him, because as he begins to minister to the minister, he finds three things. He finds him in this order. The first thing he finds is his purpose. I was born to do this. Mom, don't cry. Daddy, you look so disappointed. I'm leaving a managerial position in a secular environment to become a servant in a church. You're going to do what? Yeah, I'm going to follow this man of God around and pour water on his hand. Are you out of your mind? Do you know how much this business is worth? Yes, but do you know how much it's worth to find my purpose? And so sometimes you have to be willing to be a fool for Christ and do something foolish to do something right. He found his purpose, pouring water on the prophet's hand. He did not know that him ministering to the minister was killing the depression that had put the minister in the cave. And without Elisha, Elijah's ministry would have died in the cave. Like Aaron and Hur lifting up the hands of Moses, there are people who are called to help you look good at what you do. And so even though they're not the ones on the stage, they create the stage that the one stands on. That's the support ministry. Oh, they don't shake your hand at the back door and say, oh, that message changed my life. But if you don't provide the stage, I will fall from the platform, because you are the stage on which you stand.
We'll be right back.